A very good morning to all the students for CA Intermediate course. We welcome you here for a BOS for your success, that is success at CA exam from an initiative from Board of Studies for to guide you for CA Intermediate Account Paper 1 Advanced Accounting. Students, the session has now started where all the faculty, Board of Studies faculties are here to guide you, to help you out, to resolve your queries, and to let you know the how to resolve, perform well in your examination. So your examination is on May. You have almost we are already on 20th of March. All right, so you have almost around 1 month, 10 days left for your exam. This is the high time. You are an intermediate student, a matured student. You know what is good and what is bad for you at this stage. A crucial time to prepare yourself for your upcoming examination. You have six exam, so accordingly, please prepare your timetable. I hope you all have done your one round of preparation, and so prepare a proper schedule and proper schedule for yourself so that you can follow that and you can appear in your upcoming examination with flying colors. Okay, this is the paper for advanced accounting, or as you all know, this is a purely practical paper. You've already gone through the paper of accounting at foundation level, and for the students who have come directly to the from the direct entry scheme, must be knowing accounting. So this is an advanced accounting. As the name suggests, this is an advanced level of accounting. After this, you will be studying financial reporting at the final level. You know how important is your paper at this stage is, as you all aware that you're all prospective chartered accountants. For chartered accountants, the word comes with chartered accountant. So you can imagine how important this paper could be for you. All right, and this is an advanced level. Since at the foundation level, your concepts, your principles, procedures have been cleared. Now we are expecting you to have an advanced knowledge of accounting, covering the accounting standards, which is applicable to all the entities, which is applicable to various type of entities. Now this advanced knowledge, why do you need to have an advanced accounting knowledge? You are chartered accountants. You would be expected to have an expertise knowledge of the subject of accounting, your specific nature. So this paper is very crucial, very important, not only for passing your CA course, but also for your real life. Because when you'll be going to an organization after completing your CA, after being chartered accountant, you cannot ask anyone how is diluted EPS calculated from AS20? What was AS23? You are not expected to ask these questions from anyone. Since this chapter, this paper is of prime importance, you should know all these things and you should know how to resolve others' query as well as your organization query, how to prepare a balance sheet under Schedule 3. This will all be explained in this paper. So if you can understand, don't only study this paper only for an examination perspective. Please study this paper for your future in your future also. Since you'll be chartered accountant and a core paper of accounting and a core paper of this syllabus, which will help you for your future career as well. Do I need to tell everyone? Okay, students, there is a Zoom link also to join the session, and the Zoom link code is the Zoom link code is 846984333039. So please, you can join from the Zoom link as well. I'll again repeat the Zoom link code 846984333039. I hope you all you can join from this Zoom link also. Okay. Okay, so coming towards this accounting paper, I would like to ask any of the student can tell me that have you started your preparation? Is anyone there to share? How do you find the paper? Tell me, Janvi. Janvi. Okay. Ridhima. Ridhima. All right. Okay, let's see. Let's start with the sum of your concepts and everything here. I would be guiding you with how to resolve the paper, what is the syllabus content, what do we need to do, how to write in exams. I'll be guiding you here about all these things. All right. So, for the Companies Act, this is for this paper, the Companies Act 2020 and legislative amendments up to 31st October 2023 will be applicable for May 2025 examination. Your upcoming examination is May 2025. For that, notifications, circulars, rules, guidelines issued by the regulating authority up to 31st October 2024 would be applicable for, this is a mistake, it is a small error, so it will up to 2024 will be applicable for May 2025 examination. All right. Okay. Since you're already aware of all the material input provided by the institute, ICAI, to help you, to serve you, to help you for your preparation and to perform well in your examination. For the one is know your subject. You know your subject. Advanced accounting, which is comprising of 15 chapters along with 3 modules. You all have seen your study material, so you should be familiar with the knowledge inputs which are provided by the ICI Board of Studies. What are the knowledge inputs? You have study material, then you have revision test paper, which is specifically come for May 2025 examination. If you have not received, please see from the website that from the website, click on BoS knowledge portal and then click on revision test paper and see the study material, see the revision test paper from there. Then it will be mock test paper. Mock test paper are two. One has already been conducted, the other will be conducted. Then we have Saransh. Saransh is also available on ICI website. Saransh is a notes form booklet where you have the notes format of all the chapters, all the study accounting standards available over there. See, that book will not substitute your study material. You have to read study material, you have to go through study material time and again. This Saransh is only there to help you out to go through the concepts quickly. All right. So it cannot substitute, in any case, it cannot substitute. You cannot say that we're studying through Saransh, I'll qualify the exam. All right. Then, what is time planning? See, chartered accountant course is all about time planning and time management. We know the syllabus is too much, but yes, you will be chartered accountants and advanced accounting experts. So for that, you have to think about the time planning. You know you have 15 chapters where where all the accounting standards have been covered. Only reading through the subject of accounting will not suffice. You have to go through each and every question, each and every application based questions, theoretical questions, accounting standard based questions, so that to practice, to write all the practical questions so that you can do well and you can perform well at the time of your examination. See, 3 round of preparation is required at this stage. One time of preparation I'm expecting you all must have done. Then second round of preparation, in first round of preparation I'm expecting that all the questions have been done with your paper and pen. Only reading out in the subject of accounting will not serve the purpose. So you have to write You have to solve each and every question of your study material, your revision test papers, mock test papers. Then second round of preparation. At the time of first round of preparation, please mark the questions, please mark those illustrations which have some technical points, which have some very different adjustments, very different points, so that you can utilize that and use that at the time of your second preparation. For example, you're doing illustration 1, illustration 2, illustration 3, but illustration 1 is very simple, but illustration 3 has some points. Please mark that illustration. All right. When at the time of second preparation, second round of preparation, do those questions which you have already marked. I would request everyone to keep yourself on mute so that I can continue the session. Thank you. All right. Then at the time of second round of preparation, you are expected to do those questions again, which has different illustration, which has different adjustment. And then at the third round of preparation, you should do revise each and every question. And with a different adjustment, you have to solve it again. So three times, when you have already done a question three times and similar kind of questions with different adjustment has come in the paper, you'll be able to solve that question paper, the answer very quickly. But yes, if you have not done, you have only read the question, you'll not be able to do that question that quickly. You might take that, and that time you might take around 20 minutes. But yes, if you have done that question, practice that question well, you might take only 14 to 15 minutes. So saving of 5 minutes, which is a big saving. All right. Okay. So the relevant study material you already know. You have study material and applicable study material you already know. And then prepare notes for revision. You should always, whenever you're doing first or second round of your revision, you should always prepare a quick note in your own handwriting, so that at the time of second revision or third revision you can read that. See, we can give you saransh, we can give you notes, everything, but whatever you're written in your own hand, you will be able to understand that in a very better way, because since you have already understood that and you've written in your own hands, you just need to revise that. I'll give you in writing that you have to study the AS20 pertains to this and pertains to this. This is my mind. But what is your mind? Whatever your mind says, you should write in the book or in the notes form and revise it. But yes, it should be correct. All right. Keep yourself updated and attempt the mock test papers. Mock test papers, I'll tell you. See, the mock test paper is a kind of we prepared two mock test papers for you, which is on the basis of the question paper which comes in the examination. So expected that after completing your second round of preparation, or maybe after first round of preparation, when you know the syllabus, now give yourself 3 hours and try to solve that question paper within those 3 hours. So you'll be able to know that uh, which question you're being stuck and what is not. All right. Okay. This I have already told you. The material available is study material, MCQ practice portal. We have an MCQ practice portal since 30% of the question paper come from this MCQ. So you should practice MCQ also. Saransh, live learning classes, you already know. Suggested answers of the previous papers. They are also uploaded on website under BoS knowledge portal tab. Revision test papers, mock test papers, and students journal. We keep on updating, we keep on writing about the subject also on in student journals. Please go through that as well. Okay. So the paper of advanced accounting and intermediate level concentrate on conceptual understanding on critical aspects, crucial aspects of accounting. This is not a foundation level paper. This is a intermediate level paper. So an expert knowledge is expected from you. Then working knowledge of principles and procedures of accounting and their application to different practical situation is required. The syllabus of advanced accounting has been segregated into 15 chapters for the purpose of its full coverage and study. This I've already told you that you have 15 chapters. We have weightage also. July 2024 edition of our study materials is applicable for May 2025 examination. All right. So in the study material is integrated some with the questions illustrations so that you can practice, and all the provisions of the accounting standards is also been available. So please practice and exercise questions so that you can perform well in your examination. What are the topics covered? Process of formation of accounting standards including Ind AS, IFRS converged standards, conversion versus adoption, objectives and concepts of carve-outs, framework of for presentation and preparation of financial statements. This covers an important part of the your syllabus. Then application of accounting standard, then preparation of financial statement, that is financial statement of profit and loss, balance sheet as well as cash flow statement, buyback of securities, accounting for reconstruction of securities, accounting for branches including foreign branches. All right. Now I would like to tell you about the paper pattern. Since you're already aware, you can see the previous papers also hosted on ICAI website and the BoS Knowledge Portal tab. All right. The paper would consist of 70%, as it will be divided into two parts, 70% and the 30%. 30% would comprise of MCQ, 70% would be the descriptive paper. All right. This contains all the questions which you have to do it through your hand. So the 70 marks will have 6 questions. I would like to discuss that part first. All right. The 70 marks will have 6 questions. First question will be compulsory, and out of the 5 questions, you have to do 4 questions. The questions can be of any marks. The first question will be of 14 marks. Other questions are also 14 marks. So you have a choice. And internal choice is also given. One internal choice is also given in your paper. All right. So first question will be an accounting standard based question. How how to solve that accounting standard based question? What do we have to write here? Ma'am, what happens usually, we know the answer of that accounting standard. Okay, this question contains to accounting standard 7, but I don't know how to write it. What to write here? I can do the calculation part also, but I don't know what to write. So while doing the accounting standard question, first, if you know the answer, first write the provision applicable. Accounting standard. As per accounting standard 7, this pertains to this. Then after that, do the calculation part. All right. And then at the end, write a conclusion, a statement that this is yes. What is the conclusion for this statement? So this way, please solve the accounting standard based question. Then out of the other 5 questions, you have an internal choice where you can do any one, you can leave any question and you can do the other questions. All right. Students, I would really recommend you to please write neatly in the paper. You have 3 hours. All right. So please make the effective use of 3 hours plus first 15 minutes. Then comes to the MCQ based questions. MCQ based questions, you're not expected to write the reason, only solve the question. All right. Coming towards what is there, what shall we do in first 15 minutes? First 15 minutes are your precious minutes. That time you can do wonders. How? First, read the question paper thoroughly. Keep your mind open. Sometimes we read what we want to read. I tell you, there is an adjustment. There's the question which came in the examination. For example, I'm telling you a situation, right? The question came in an examination which I have already done during my practice. But the question has 2 different adjustments. But while reading, oh wow, this question I have already done, and I read only what I've already done during my practice. I ignore the statement which is different from the question which I've done during my practice. So please keep your mind open while reading the question paper. All right. And then strategize yourself, analyze which question you know the best, what choice you'll be making, which question you'll be leaving, and which question you know the best. What should be the sequence of solving the paper? So if you think that you know the chapter question number 2 very well, start doing that question. All right. But when while doing the question, this might pertains to financial statement, and you're unable to tally the balance sheet. Give yourself time. Try to tally that balance sheet. But please do not spend full 1 hour while doing that question, tallying the balance sheet. I would really request you, if you are unable to tally, then leave some space and then start the question. Next question. All right. Okay. Since you have now strategized the sequence that in this way I'll be doing all the questions, start the question. All right. But yes, if you're starting question number 4 first, please do all the parts in one go only. And if you're not doing the part, for example, you know 4A, you know 4B, but you're not sure about 4C, leave some space, a reasonable space, which you know, and then start doing the other question. All right. But try to do all the parts in one go only and at one place only. It will be convenient for the examiner to check your answer sheet. All right. Don't do this that I'll do 4A first and then 5B, then 4C, then 2A. Do 4A, B, C, 1, then 1A, B, C, another, this way. All right. Wherever you feel any um assumption is required, give a reasonable assumption also. All right. If a paper you think that there is an assumption and there is a need of an assumption, please give a reasonable assumption. All right. So the assessment paper pattern of this paper would be 30% case scenarios based MCQs and 70% descriptive questions. It may be noted that the preparation strategy for MCQ and descriptive questions would be same. However, the manner of answering the question would be different. For MCQ, you are not required to provide any reasoning. All right. So MCQs are direct question. If you know the answer, you'll get the marks. If you don't know the answer, you won't get the marks. But for descriptive questions, you have to substantiate your answer with the proper reasoning. All right. You have to, if an application based accounting standard has come, you have to substantiate with the proper reasoning. There would be no negative marking for the wrong answer. Each MCQ will have 4 options, only one correct option. For the remaining 70 marks, the existing pattern or paper pattern will continue. All right, you can see the paper pattern from the previous papers hosted on ICAI website. All right, this I've already discussed with you. The question paper will comprise of 6 questions, 14 marks each. First question will be compulsory, which is usually an accounting standard based question. And out of the 5 remaining questions, you have to attempt any 4 questions. So making a choice 5 out of 4 is the most crucial and important decision for solving this paper. And this you should do during first 15 minutes of your, which is given for reading. All right. And in the mind, please also decide the sequence, which way you'll be following for writing the answers, right? Question 1 is compulsory based on accounting standards. Internal choice in any other question can be given. All right. It is only upon the discretion of the question paper setter. Whenever necessary, suitable assumption may be made and indicated in the answer by the candidate. Working note should form a part of your answer. We usually get this query that where should we write working note? Should we write at the start of the question or should we write at the end of the main answer? Students, I would really recommend you, when you start the answer, write the main answer first. Well, for example, you're preparing the financial statement, make balance sheet, profit and loss account first, and then after you prepare working notes. Should not prepare working note in the first go. First, make the main answer and then working note, and it should be substantiate with the proper numbering. If you're writing working note number 1, the working note number, respective working note number 1 should be for that purpose only. All right. It is very important. You make it easier for the examiner to check your answer sheet. He'll make it easy to you for you to give marks. So this is a big example. Make it neat. Make it easy for examiner to know that you know the concepts better. He'll make it easy for you to give your marks. Okay. Here now we have Achal sir also. He is guiding you in your LVC classes as well. Achal sir, just a minute. Achal sir, CA Achal Jain ji.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes. So he'll
yeah.
be guiding you for all your queries, and let's welcome Achal sir. He has been taking the classes for your LVC batches as well. So can you see us here? Now we can see you as well. So you can share your screen also.
Sure.
All right. So he'll be guiding you with the things and how to solve the paper and how to resolve queries. He'll be resolving your queries as well. All right, so over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thanks for providing this guidance. I am sure that students must have benefited through this.
Mm.
And of course, good morning, everyone. And now we will continue with our discussion in respect to the practical challenges, anything around that you may face, and of course, how to plan around that. What all things you should be doing, what all things you should not be doing in respect of your examination. Okay. All right. So continuing further on this, so I think first assessment which I would make in respect of the examination approach will be to make sure that you have this conceptual clarity around the subject. Okay, that's the first and foremost thing. Because if you will have the conceptual clarity, then whether it is about MCQ or whether it is about descriptive, okay, all the questions you will be able to deal in a very effective manner. So that's one of the very important aspects. Yeah. Now, what I'll do is, first of all, I'll just try to get through some of the things which you may get to see in respect of the examination, some of the topics which are important, not so important. And then, of course, we plan to get into some of the questions also in respect of some of the technical points. How should we look at the questions? How should we be dealing with all of those questions? So, that is, of course, our plan for today. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can just keep asking those questions. That will also be great. Okay, now, many a times a question comes whether this NDS or IFRS is applicable. The answer is no. Okay, so at your level, only the accounting standards are applicable. Now, briefly about the accounting standards. See, when it comes to the accounting in today's time, so accounting in today's time is all driven by the accounting standards. So that is one point one needs to understand. Okay. So any chapter which you cover under intermediate level, okay, you can say it's either the accounting standard in itself or it's sort of, driven by the various accounting principles. Okay, so that's why understanding of accounting standards is very important for you. And what do you mean by accounting standards? Accounting standards are nothing but the standardized mode of doing the accounting by various entities. Now, whether that is about corporates or non corporates, in respect of recognition requirements, in respect of measurement requirements, in respect of presentation or disclosure. Now, let's spend some time on these four requirements also, because many a times there are gaps in terms of understanding these four requirements. Yeah. So, can you quickly help me understand what do you mean by recognition? If you look at the accounting standards, in the accounting standards, there are certain paras, there are certain requirements which talk about recognition. Can you tell me quickly, over to you, everyone, what do you mean by recognition? Over to you quickly. What do you mean by recognition? Yeah, Ajit, I'm not sure whether this chat is enabled for the students or not. available. Huh? So, all right. So, I would request everyone to please respond on this. Yeah. So, what do you mean by recognition? So, recognition means, yes, quickly. Recognition means how should an item be recorded? Means if you are required to pass an accounting entry, that is nothing but a recognition. What do you mean by measurement? Measurement means the amount at which an item or a transaction or an event is required to be recorded. Okay, yeah. So the amount at which you will record an item, what do you call it as measurement? Then any item which you recognize, which you measure, needs to be presented somewhere in the financial statements. So whether it will go to balance sheet, if it will go to balance sheet, whether it will go under PPE, means under asset side or liability side, whether this will be shown as a separate line item or needs to be clubbed somewhere. All of these are what? They are nothing but their classification requirements, or you can say, in other words, nothing but the presentation requirements. Yeah. Okay. Last, but the most important aspect, okay, which is mostly ignored in respect of the entities, happens to be the disclosure requirements. Now, in respect of an item which has been recorded, which has been recognized, which has been measured or presented, if let's suppose you are required to go through a set of financial statements wherein you are only provided with the balance sheet, wherein you are only provided with the P&L, or let's suppose cash flow statement. Now, of course, you are the accounting experts because you understand accounting, you are going through this account syllabus. Perspective of a layman or maybe a person who doesn't understand the accounting language. Do you think such a person will be able to understand the items which are there in the balance sheet? If let's suppose only the balance sheet is presented to that person, only the P&L is presented to that person, do you think he will be able to understand those items, understand those numbers? Tell me, what are your thoughts? Do you think it will be easy for those persons to understand some of those requirements? The answer is no. The answer is no. Why? Because if you talk about PPE, then the basis of recognition of PPE is not specified in the balance sheet. Yes or no? Similarly, if we talk about sales for a company, then the basis of recognition of sales is not specified in the statement of P&L. Correct? Yeah. Similarly, there could be various line items, there could be various transactions, there could be various events which are not explained in the financial statements. Yeah. So, how do you get to know about them? So, their explanation, or you can say the nomenclature, which we use for explanation of all those items, happens to be what? Disclosure. So, what do you mean by disclosure? Disclosure is nothing but the explanation. Yeah, in respect of these items. And that is where the clarity around the recognition and the measurement is increased as far as the understanding of financial statements is concerned. Okay, yeah, so this is a very, very important aspect of the financial statements, but largely ignored, or you can say not focused upon, and that is where a significant importance is required to be placed upon. Okay, now moving further, if you look at the accounting standards, now there are again a variety of accounting standards. There are so many accounting standards, but at the same time, if you look at some of the accounting standards, say AS1, okay, or if let's suppose you look at accounting standard 17, that is about segment reporting. Similarly, if you look at AS 18, which talks about related party. Now, some of these accounting standards that we have just discussed, they do not provide anything as around the recognition or measurement or presentation. They only deal with the disclosure requirements. Only. So if you go through these accounting standards, they will only be dealing with the disclosure requirements. Similarly, if you look at AS3, for example, which is about cash flow statement, that only deals with the presentation aspect. But if you look at some of the accounting standards, say AS2, AS10, AS6 is not there now, AS10, AS9, which is on revenue, AS7, which is about construction contracts. Now, these are the accounting standards which deal with all of these aspects: recognition, measurement, presentation, as well as disclosures. Okay. So every time an accounting standard is looked at, you should not assume that it will always be talking about all the four aspects. Some of the accounting standards are dedicated only to the presentation requirements. Some of the accounting standards are dedicated only to the disclosure requirements. And some of the accounting standards are covering all of those aspects. Okay. So that is how you need to understand some of the requirements of the accounting standards. Correct? All right. Now, as regards your examination, all the accounting standards have been specified. But please remember that when it comes to the accounting standards, their explanation and interpretation is something that you need to work upon. Yeah, because that is what your study material covers. So idea is not to just maybe mug up or cram any of the particular para. That will not help you. Okay. And that is something which is very, very important. Huh? That is something which is very, very important, on which you need to focus, on which you need to work on. Okay. Now, therein you need to understand. Therein you need to understand that the conceptual clarity of the accounting standard becomes important for you. That is something you need to focus upon. Right? Yeah. All right, just give me a minute. I can see Nisarg. If you can see, there are certain participants. Okay, the messages which are currently moving around. Nisarg, if you can just check and maybe block these participants, please. Yeah, this is, I think, Dr. N.V. Ravi. Done? All right. Yeah. All right. So let's continue. Huh? Okay, now, of course, all of these accounting standards which you get to see, they are covered in your study material. But what your study material has also suggested at various places, and which is again very, very important for you, because eventually as you'll move further, so let's suppose when you clear your inter examination, when you clear your final examination, okay, advanced accounting, or you can say accounting is the core area for any chartered accountant. Okay, this is the basic, you can say this is the basic ingredient for any chartered accountant to work upon any of the things. Yeah, this is the core requirement. Now in this case, it becomes very, very important for you to make sure that you go through the bare accounting standards also. Now, some of you may be thinking that, sir, if we don't cover the bare accounting standards, so do we lose out anywhere in the examination? No. Idea is to just enhance your knowledge, because while you are covering certain aspects of the accounting standards, while you are covering certain aspects of the accounting standards in the study material, okay, in your course curriculum, it is always advisable that you go through those bare accounting standards also, so that you can get this complete clarity. Okay, that's the best way to get this, sort of expert knowledge on the relevant subject. Yeah. So that's where I think you also need to focus upon, and that will eventually help you in terms of your examination also. Right? Okay, now as regards the examination, see, there are few topics which are interlinked at times. Or you can say there are certain areas which are interlinked at times. Yeah. Now, what do you mean by interlinkage? Interlinkage means when you are dealing with a particular topic, you cannot just stay focused on one particular area or one particular chapter. Yeah. So, can you please help me understand any of those topics which come to your mind wherein you believe that you will require knowledge of various topics, or maybe the application of various topics which are covered by various chapters are required to be looked at for you to solve questions on that? Quickly, anything that comes to your mind. Over to you, quickly. Yes, over to you, quickly. Great. Samriddhi says yes, 5. Okay, so can you please explain that? Why do you think that while dealing with any questions related to AS5, you'll also need the knowledge of certain other topics? And which are those topics? Can you please help me understand that, Samriddhi? And quickly, other students also, please try to think about it. Quickly, anything that comes to your mind. I'm sure you would have gone through various topics by now and you will have some clarity around that. Yes, quickly. Okay, great. So I think it's a nice point which has been shared by Khushi. So Khushi is saying that's our AS22. Now, if you look at AS22, it's an accounting standard, correct? And because it's an accounting standard, so that's why it will deal only with the accounting requirements. Yes or no? Yeah. And it's a very, very, I think, relevant standard which has been touched upon by Khushi. Now, when it comes to accounting standard on deferred taxes, of course, you will be looking at the accounting requirements. But I'm sure that you will appreciate this point that till the time you do not have the relevant knowledge of income tax, you will not be able to understand this particular topic. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yeah. So, therefore, there's a sort of interlinkage. For you to understand this concept better, or you can say to get an expertise on this particular accounting standard, what will you need? Knowledge of income tax. Without that, what will happen? Without that, you will struggle. Okay, of course, you can mug up some of the things which are available in that particular chapter, but you will not be able to get through with the expertise. Correct? Okay, great. Smriddhi has also shared one point. She's saying, sir, in AS5, we have to recognize the revenue, for which computation of revenue is also important. AS19, AS7, also sometimes it considers AS29. Swati is saying AS10, wherein even though we talk about PPE, but as regards the cost model, impairment requirement is also important to be understood. Or at times there could be questions wherein the question is related to PPE, but you may have to deal with the impairment requirements. And for impairment, you have a separate accounting standard, AS 28. Yeah, again, a very, very relevant point shared by Swati. Great. Then let me just share you another very important topic, financial statements. Yes or no? So in some of the examples you have shared, you are talking about two, three topics which are required to be interlinked. Let's suppose if you were to deal with financial statements, can you just think of so many topics which will get interrelated? Yes or no? Yeah. For financial statements, what is it that you'll need? You'll need the understanding of Schedule 3, correct? Because the format of financial statements, where does it come from? Schedule 3. Then, if you are required to prepare the financial statements, then you will have to understand all the accounting standards. Yes or no? Yeah. Without that, can you actually get into the preparation of the financial statements? The answer is no. Each and every accounting standard you'll have to understand, because you don't know which accounting standard may be applicable to that particular company. Okay, any of the transaction may get covered under any of the accounting standards. Correct. Third, there are various rules and regulations which are applicable to the company and which may have some impact on the recognition, on the measurement requirements. Yes or no? For example, depreciation, right? Depreciation. So if you talk about depreciation, can you tell me how do you compute depreciation of fixed assets, which is now called as PPE? Can you tell me how do you compute depreciation? Over to you. Here again, we'll see some linkage. Quickly, depreciation. Samriddhi says SLM or WDV, correct? But that's the method. How do you calculate depreciation? You'll calculate depreciation based on useful life. Yes or no? So if you are required to calculate depreciation, what do you need? Useful life, correct? No. Useful lives of various items of PPE are given in the Companies Act also. Yeah, which is called as indicative useful lives. So various items of PPE, indicative useful lives are available in the Companies Act. If a company has to depreciate an item of PPE, it will always go and refer those indicative useful lives. But is it mandatory for a company to follow the same useful lives? The answer is no. Why? Because the accounting standard says that useful life should be the one which is assessed by the management, which is assessed by the company. Yeah. For example, now it's an example. I am not really looking at the useful life which is given by the Companies Act. For example, there is a machine. Let's suppose its indicative useful life as per Companies Act is say 15 years. But the management believes it will be usable say for 18 years or say 10 years. In such a case, what do you think should be the useful life of that machine? 15 years or 10 years? Tell me, over to you. What should be the useful life? 15 years or 10 years? Tell me, what will the useful life for that particular machine? Will that be 15 years or 10 years? Great. Ashish says it should be 10 years. But in this case, because you are not following the life which is indicated by the Companies Act, you need to give a note in the financial statements that the useful life is not based on the indicative useful lives and it is based on technical assessment of the management. Is that a problem? No, that is not a problem. But that's the requirement you need to follow. Okay. So you can just understand that even when it comes to the depreciation, you will not only be looking at the accounting standard, you will also be looking at the Companies Act. Correct? Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to the accounting requirements, please understand that accounting requirement is not limited to a particular area or a particular reference point. Yeah, you may have to get into a lot of topics, and when you combine all of those knowledge at one place, that's how its recognition, that's how its recording will have to be done or may have to be done. Correct? Any questions so far? Yeah. So keep asking questions, any questions in between if you have. Okay. Now, financial statements we have already talked about. Similarly, if you look at corporate restructuring, now this chapter deals with restructuring of companies and accounting treatment thereon. Yeah. In which case, you will need to understand the provisions of the Companies Act plus AS 14. So, can you now understand that for this particular chapter, you will not only be looking at the guidance which is given in this chapter. Why? Because some of the requirements of Companies Act will apply. Some of the requirements of AS 14 will apply. Okay. So all of these you need to consider and accordingly you need to apply that. Okay. Similarly, when it comes to CFS consolidation, again, a very, very important topic for you from the examination point of view also. Consolidation is very, very important. Yeah. Now, when it comes to consolidation, can you tell me some of the things which are important? Here again, you need to follow the format of the financial statements. Correct? You need to follow the format of the financial statements. Plus, you will not be limited to only one accounting standard. If it's a subsidiary, then you will have to consider AS 21. If it's an associate, then you will have to look at AS 23. If it's a joint venture, then you will have to look at AS 27. Okay. Now, depending on the types of entities which a company may have within the group, which are required to be consolidated, different accounting standards may have to be looked at simultaneously. Why do I say simultaneously? Because within the same set of financial statements which are consolidated, you may have to look at all of these accounting standards. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, I think Schedule 3 is something which we have already talked about, but as regards the Schedule 3, now what do you mean by Schedule 3, Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3? See, Schedule 3 prescribes the format of the financial statements. So, what do you mean by this? For the presentation of financial statements in India, there is a prescribed format. Any company which will prepare its financial statements, it will have to use the same format, or you can say the same criteria which is given. Now, where is that provided? That is provided in Schedule 3. Okay, you can say it's a schedule to the Companies Act. Correct? Now, within this Schedule 3, there are various formats. One that we call as Division 1, one that we call as Division 2, okay, and of course, Division 3. Now, in relation to the accounting standards, which is also very popularly called as Indian GAAP, okay, something which is applicable at your level intermediate, you only need to look at this Division 1. You don't need to look at any other Division 2 or 3. Okay, so at your intermediate level, only thing that you need to look at is what? Schedule 3, Division 1. All right. This is the only thing that you need to consider. Fine. Now, moving further. As regards the financial statements, in the financial statements, again, there are a lot of things which are required to be looked at, but I think we can just look at some of the technical aspects related to the financial statements. Now, when it comes to the financial statements, it is very, very important that they are understandable. And that's why it is important that the financial statement should not be having unnecessary, not required information, means something which is only relevant for the users to consider, something which is relevant for the users, without which users will not be able to understand some of the things which are there in the financial statements. So that relevance is a very, very important consideration. Generally, there is a thought. What's the thought? That if, let's suppose, there is any disclosure, include that. Okay. If, let's suppose, there is no clarity, let's add that in the financial statements. Is that something which the accounting standard requires, or you can say which the financial statement should include? The answer is no. Answer is no. Financial statements should be prepared in a manner that they are understandable by the user of the financial statements, and of course for which the information which is provided should be clear, concise and relevant. Irrelevant, unnecessary information, if you include that, then what will happen? That will unnecessarily distract the users. Okay, that should not be included in the financial statements. And of course, because the financial statements have to provide a true and fair view. So what do you need to have? They must be free from any material error or bias. Can you help me understand the meaning of this material? What do you mean by material? Anyone? What do you understand by material? In the context of financial statements, can you tell me what do you mean by material? Yes? Over to you. What do you mean by material? Over to you. What do you mean by material in the context of financial statements? Very good. Samriddhi says which has significant value. Sanya says which is significantly important. Swati says an omission or misstatement. Material means which is so significant that in the absence of such an item or such a disclosure, or in the absence of which decision making of the users will be impacted. Okay, decision making of the users will be impacted. If that is so significant, that is what you call as material. Now, as regards the materiality, amount is not the only consideration. Please remember. Of course, in the context of a financial statements for a company, you will say that yes, if let's suppose amount is more than 10 crore for a company having a turnover of 100 crore, this amount is material. Why? Because it's a significant amount. Means you will always be looking at the quantitative criteria for getting onto the materiality. But quantitative criteria is not the only criteria. Please remember. That's not the only criteria. Qualitative criteria is also required to be looked at. So what do you mean by qualitative? Means something which may not have a significant amount involved, but for the user, understanding of such item, understanding of such transaction, even though amount is not significant, is still important. Can you give me an example for that? What could be an example of qualitatively important item transaction in the financial statements? Means quantitatively, if you look at that, is not significant, but still qualitatively you will call it as material. Anyone? Any example that comes to your mind qualitatively which you will call as important? Over to you quickly. Sanya says strike by workers. Okay. That means you are trying to say something which is unusual, something which is abnormal, a disclosure around that. Yeah. Another example could be the related party transactions. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yeah. Related party transactions, that is also considered to be important. Now, as regards the financial statements, comparability is also important. That's why you include the comparatives in the financial statements. Now, there are, of course, various items in the financial statements: asset, liability, equity, expenses, gain. I'm not really discussing getting onto some of these items because you understand that. Okay. But as regards their measurement, depending on the accounting standard you will follow, some of the accounting standard may require recognition at historical cost, means the carrying amount. Sometimes you may get on to the realizable value. Like in case of inventory, you need to remeasure at net realizable value. Sometimes you may have to get on to the present value. For example, leases. In case of finance leases, you need to get into the present value also. Yeah. So different requirements as regards the recognition of an item could be there. Yeah. Every time you look at the transaction, you look at the item, you need to consider that. Okay. Now, all accounting standards, as we discussed, are applicable for your May examination. Now, some of the accounting standards or some of the accounting requirements we'll just quickly try to flip through, okay, as to what all things are covered therein. So when it comes to AS3, which talks about cash flow. So what do you mean by AS3 cash flow? Means the cash movement you need to present. Means inflow you need to present, outflow you need to present. Now for this movement, what do you need to present? You need to categorize into three categories. One, which are the core activities, which belong to the core activities, principal revenue generating activity. And that is what you call as operating activity. If there is any item which is in relation to acquisition, disposal of long-term assets or other investments, that is what you call as investing activities. Yeah. Anything which changes the size, composition of owner's capital or borrowings, that is what you call as financing activity. Yeah. Okay. Now, similarly, if we go to AS13, which deals with investments. Okay, so it talks about two types of investments, current and long term. Initially, how do you measure them? At cost always. But subsequently, when it comes to current, you need to consider lower of cost and fair value. But when it comes to long term, they will be measured at cost. Subsequently also, provided any provision for diminution, which is other than temporary, needs to be created. At times, what may happen is investment moves from current to long term or long term to current. In such a case, what do? You'll have to change the values, you'll have to remeasure them. So, in case the investment moves from current to long term, what do? Transfer at lower of cost and fair value. Because that is how you will be recording the current investments. Lower of cost and fair value. Yeah. So lower of cost and fair value considered, move them at long term, and then apply the requirements which will follow for long term. If let's suppose an investment is currently recorded as long term, then what will you do? Compute its cost and carrying amount at the date of transfer. Lower of these two you will pick up. Similarly, when it comes to branches, so branches could be inland or foreign. Yeah. Now, as regards the inland branches, there could be some dependent branches for which entire accounting is kept at actual level. But if the independent branches are there, they will be maintaining their independent records. Okay. Now, for the dependent branches, again, various methodologies could be there. So if the goods are invoiced at cost or selling price, then you have these three methods: debtor method, stock and debtor method, trade in P&L account. If the goods are invoiced at wholesale price, you have wholesale branches method. Yeah. So some of these things are there. Similarly, when you move to foreign currency transactions, now in respect of foreign currency transactions, what do you have? In respect of foreign currency transactions, there could be some monetary items. If the monetary items are there, then you need to restate them. Just a minute. Nisarg, I think there's one participant you need to remove. This NV Ravi. You block him, please. He has been logging out, then logging in. It's better you done.
Sir, you can also remove.
But I'm not able to see that particular participant.
He has joined for a few seconds only.
Okay. So can we just remove him from the backend itself, that he's not able to join
Sir, we
again?
are enabling the waiting room. Just it's easy to find them.
Better. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now we were talking about foreign currency transactions or foreign currency balances. So again, there's a separate accounting standard dealing with this. So if you have monetary items, then you need to check what type of foreign operation is there. Foreign operation could again be integral or non-integral. Integral means something which is very much a part of the entity. Non-integral means something which is independent, works in an autonomous manner. Okay. Now, as regards the monetary items, in the standalone financial statements, they will always be restated at the closing rate. Where will the impact go when you restate? When you convert them, can you tell me? Where will the impact go? When you convert them, when you restate them, where will the impact go? Over to you quickly. Where will you take the impact? When you convert them, where will the impact go? Means, will it go to P&L? Will it go to reserves? Great. Ashish says it will go to P&L. Okay. So you restate and the impact goes to P&L. Correct? Non-monetary items, you don't restate them. Yeah. Except for the translation of the financial statements, in which case you will follow the closing rate. Okay. In which case, when you are translating the entire set of financial statements from one currency to another presentation currency, so where will the impact go? FCTR. That will not go to P&L, that will go to FCTR. Okay. Now, this was briefly about some of the things as regards the topics that we can look at. Okay. Now, some of the points around the strategy. So now, as around the strategy, I think already there has been a lot of discussion, so I won't really get too much into this strategy or some of these points, but of course we can just look at it later on. But yes, very, very important for you to focus upon is to read the question carefully. See, in the exam, most of the mistakes which are made are not because you don't have the right knowledge, are not because you have not done the practice in an appropriate manner. You may have done that, but what generally happens in the exam is that you don't read the question properly. Okay. Please remember that each and every question in the exam is important and you need to give proper respect to every question. So, how do you respect that? Give appropriate time to reading. Yeah. Because if you just read that in a hurry, if let's suppose you are rushing through that and you miss out on some of the requirements, or maybe you misinterpret the requirement of the question, then despite knowing about that requirement, maybe you have practiced that, you knew that, you will not be able to answer that correctly. Okay, so that's why it's very, very important in the exam that you read the question carefully and devote appropriate time to that reading. Okay, that is very, very important. Of course, these are also some of the uh, I would say reference points or material which BOS provides you, and which is again very, very important for you to go through. You cannot just simply skip any of these. Yeah, very, very important. Correct. Now, all right. So now I think this is again a very, very important sort of strategy, or you can say a point for the examination for you to look at. First of all, what is it? First, write the answer which you know the best. And always try to attempt all the sub part of the questions at one place. It should happen that part A you are solving first, then for question 2 you are solving part B, then for question 3 you are solving part C. Yeah, so maybe if let's suppose for a particular question you know only two parts, maybe the third part you don't know, you want to attempt that later, leave space for that. Okay, better is that a particular question with all the parts is available at one place. Yeah, okay, that will help you. Otherwise this may get skipped in terms of evaluation later on. Handwriting, again, it's not about good handwriting, but poor handwriting should be avoided. You should not be rushing through everything. Yeah, so please make sure that you are reasonable. If you believe your handwriting is not good for some reason, try to present it. Okay, leave spaces, write as much as possible in pointers. Okay, some of these pointers you can add. This will make your solution more presentable. Instead of putting everything in one para, break the paras. Okay, make 2 to 3 paras, make 4 to 5 paras. There's absolutely no problem in doing that, but that will make it more presentable. Yeah. Any of the assumptions, if you believe is required, you should always specify that. It is very, very important. Many a times, what may happen is that the question doesn't have complete clarity. So you are required to take assumptions. But if you are taking that assumptions, it's not necessary that that's the only assumption possible. Yeah, maybe 3 assumptions are possible, because of which 3 answers will be correct. But till the time we don't get to know, let's suppose if I am the examiner, as to what assumption you have taken, how will I know whether your answer is correct or not? Yeah, so that's why you should give the assumption. And sometimes maybe assumption was not required, but still you thought assumption is given, or assumption is required to be taken. Again, there's no problem, but you should write it. But you should write it. Any of the working notes that you have, please remember working notes carry marks. Okay, so we are not talking about rough working here, but of course, the working notes, okay, which is a part of your solution with which you have been able to come to the solution. That is again very, very important point. Please remember all of these things carry marks. Okay, so if there's a 5 marks question, if you just give the solution, if your solution is correct, but the workings are not there, then you may lose out. Why? Because the working will also have some weightage. That calculation, all of those things, the final outcome is not the one which will give you all the 5 marks. Entire calculation is what will give you the full 5 marks. Yeah. Again, very, very important. Now, when it comes to the preparation, of course, again, you can have different approaches in terms of preparing your notes, in terms of approaching that strategy. But of course, when it comes to the examination, as we have already discussed about it, try to break your exam, the number of questions, into the time limit that you will assign to each and every question. Okay. So if let's suppose you have 180 minutes, you should be knowing that you will allow how many minutes you will allow to a particular question, and accordingly it should be attempted. Yeah. In the examination, many a times what has been observed is that there's a question which you are just about to solve, or maybe you believe you are just about to solve, but you have extended your time limit. You keep extending your time limit. Why? Because you get into a situation wherein you think that today I'll just prove this, okay, or you want to prove a point that I'll solve this question. No, in the examination your objective is not to solve a particular question. Okay, that's not a race which you need to win by solving only that particular question. What is the approach? You need to attempt all the questions. So if let's suppose on a particular question, if unnecessarily do you devote significant time, then what will happen? You will not be able to complete the remaining part, and which is very, very damaging. Yeah, that should always be avoided. Once your allocated time to a particular question is over, you can give some cushion, maybe for 1 or 2 minutes or maximum 5 minutes. Beyond that, leave that question. If you want to come back to it, complete it, no problem. Leave space and come back to that towards the end when the time is still left, or if the time is still left. Why? Because only then you will be able to give appropriate time to the remaining questions and you will be able to solve the entire question paper. Okay. Yeah. That is a very, very important strategy. Now, please remember that you need to be tactful. You need to just make sure that all of these strategies which you have prepared, you are executing that properly. Yeah. Okay. Because all of this planning, if that is not executed properly, so what will happen? That will fail. Okay. Eventually, your objective will not be achieved. Yeah. And what is our objective? Our objective is to make sure that entire question paper has been attempted by us. Yeah. Okay. Now, some of the things as we discussed, all necessary working notes is very important. They carry marks. Any assumptions you use, you need to specify. In case of questions which are based on practical application, support the answer with provisions. We'll talk about it. What is the meaning of that? We'll look at some questions today. Fine. If by chance you do not remember the number or the name of the accounting standard while you are answering that, generally there is a thought that you want to make it more presentable, you want to impress the examiner, so that's why you try to make sure that the number of the accounting standard and the name of accounting standard is written, but you should make sure that you write that only when that is correct. Okay, wrong accounting standard name or number you should not quote. If you are not confident, it's okay. Leave the number and name. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because if you are writing something wrong, then of course your marks will be deducted. Yeah. That is again very, very important. Now, some of the general mistakes that the students make. Now, this is again very, very important. In the standard based questions, students were unable to substantiate their conclusion. Why? Because they gave the solution, but the provision was not explained properly. A very commonly observed mistake. Okay. Even though students answered the question, but in-depth understanding was found missing. See, when you are writing your answer, if you, let's suppose, have just done a cramming, okay, you have not understood the concept. So your answer will most likely reflect your understanding. Okay, so that's why it's always important that this understanding of the concept is demonstrated. Okay, another very common error is wrong carry forward of the amounts from one page to another. Why? Because you are in a hurry. You are in a hurry. There is a rush. Okay, maybe the amount you need to move to the next page was 1,50,857. But while you moved on to that, you wrote it as 957. Okay, and the remaining part goes wrong. Yes or no? Yes or no? So you knew everything, but again, the problem is what? You are rushing through this. Okay, or maybe towards the end, you are not allocating time to revise or just do a quick review of whatever you have solved. That is again very, very important. Some of the basics check, some of the basic checks you need to plan to be there. Many students did not take care of the format of financial statements. So now here again, for the financial statements, whenever it is required to be given, what will you do as a student? So we'll follow the same format which is given in the question paper. Now it's not necessary that the question paper will use the format, because the question wants to test your knowledge, whether you understand the format or not. So the question may have this incomplete format or the wrong format. So the right format, complete format is something which you need to put in place in your solution. Okay, again, a very, very commonly found mistake. Answer of the candidates did not reflect the recent amendments. Okay, and you are aware of the recent amendments that you need to, something that will apply in relation to the attempt that you will do. Okay, yeah. So some of these things I think we have already talked about, but another point we can discuss is students gave irrelevant details even for small question. Generally, there is a thought process. What is the thought process? You want to write as much as possible. Okay, there's a competition that if, let's suppose, a person behind me or in front of me is taking the sheets, he is requesting for more and more answer sheets. Okay, so you also want to write in detail. Okay, there's a competition that if he has taken 3 sheets, I'll take 4 sheets. Yes or no? Does it happen or not? Yes or no? Does it happen or not? Tell me quickly, everyone. Is this a very common thought process or not? Yeah? Tell me quickly. Yes? Now, this is something which you need to avoid. You need to make sure that whatever you are writing is concise and precise. You don't know whether the other person who has been asking for a lot of sheets as to, what is he writing over there? Whether he has been writing something wrong or right. You don't know. Okay. So that's why you should just make sure that whatever you are writing is relevant. Don't just fill pages unnecessarily. That is not something which is really required or something which is very, very relevant. Selective study is dangerous. Try to avoid that. At least go through everything. So, of course, you may miss out on some of the points, but make sure that at least you are aware of that. You have read through that. Okay. Completely following this selective study strategy. Okay. Out of 10, I'll cover 6, 4, I'll completely skip. You don't know. Okay. Exam, you don't know. You may be thinking that every time these 4 are missed out. You don't know. Most of the question paper this time around is for the from those chapters which you may have left. Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, so that's why this is very, very damaging. Okay, very dangerous it can be. This should be avoided. You need to plan properly. Yeah, conceptual understanding, we have already talked about it. Practice questions, because in the exam you will be time driven, so that's why the written practice is important. See, it's a practical paper. Okay, even if it comes to theory, theory is something which you need to write in time. So till the time you don't write and you practice by writing, you will not be confident in the exam. Okay, or maybe you may just miss out in the exam. Yeah, lot of papers are available, mock test papers are available, previous year papers are available. You can just go practice them. Yes or no? Yeah. All right. So I think this is it that we had in terms of some of the pointers. Now, what we plan to do today is we'll also pick up one RTP. Okay. So we'll pick up one RTP, and using that RTP, we'll try to solve some questions. Fine. Yeah. Okay. But before that, I think we can take a quick break. Yeah. So let's take a quick break for 5 to 10 minutes. That should be good enough. Yeah. All right. So let's take a quick break of 10 minutes and then we'll continue with our discussion. Done? Okay. Hi, welcome back. So let's continue with our discussion. So as we discussed, we'll pick up one RTP, right? And in that RTP, we'll just try to look at some questions because idea is to get on to the approach that we follow. How should we really be solving the questions? So so if you want to open, you can also open this document simultaneously. Okay, so I'm picking up this RTP for May 2025. Yeah, okay. So now let me just share this with you. So we'll look at this RTP now. Okay, yeah. So now, first question, it's about MCQ, which is based on case scenario. Correct? Yeah. I would request everyone to please participate. If you want to refer this document, you can also refer this document in the you can always download this, huh? Okay. Just give me a minute. All right. So now, in the books of G Limited, closing inventory as at 31st March 2024 amounts to 10,40,000 on the basis of FIFO method. Okay. Yeah. Company decides to change from FIFO method to weighted average method for ascertaining the cost of inventory for 31st March 2024 on the basis of weighted average method. So now in this case, what has happened? Closing inventory as at 31st March was 1040. This was based on FIFO. Okay. Now, the company has decided to change the method of inventory valuation from FIFO to weighted average. Okay. Now, on the basis of weighted average, closing inventory would be 8,80,000. Okay. Okay, now this is going to be the revised amount. Realizable value of the inventory as at 31st March will be 12 lakh. Yeah. So now in this case, what will be the value of inventory in the books and what disclosure should be given in the financial statements? So you have got four options. Now please remember, generally what happens is, let's suppose if option A is correct, and if you have gone through the question and you read option A and that appears to be correct, so what will happen? You will immediately answer that. You will not read B, C, D. It is always advised not to do that. Even if you are confident, it is better you read the remaining options also. Yeah. Okay. Please do that. Please make sure that you read all the options because many a times some of the options could be quite similar. Okay, because you are not always required to pick the correct one. You are required to pick the most appropriate one. So it may happen that out of all the options, solution of all the options is correct, but one of them is most A. Kushi is saying it should be D, but no worries. Let's read all the options first. Value of inventory will be 8,80,000, and the fact that the valuation method has changed should be disclosed. Okay, option B, value of inventory will be 12 lakh. Now, the moment it says value of inventory will be 12 lakh, is this option correct? No. See, one thing is very clear. If the method has to be changed to weighted average, the value has to be 880. Okay, so now, because we need to get on to the solution, so I'm not saying that you should not read the answer. But while reading the answer, if you come across any option which you believe is not right, You need to eliminate that because eventually answer has to be given or not. Yeah. So very clearly, the option which says inventory will be 12. Can that be correct? The answer is no. So that's why B will be eliminated. Let's look at C. C says value of inventory will be 12 lakh. Again, is that option possible? No. So that means B and C as the options are not possible. They are not possible. Yeah. So B and C will go away. Let's read D. It says value of inventory will be 8,80,000. Good. And full disclosure with the amount of valuation method that this has changed needs to be disclosed. So now if you look at option A and D, the same point which I was just trying to convey, can you see that difference? So if one will read at option A, can we say that option A is incorrect? The answer is no. Yes or no? So if you are required to look at the solution, in this case, can we say that option A is incorrect? What do you think? Can we say that option is incorrect? Tell me. Over to you quickly. In this case, will you say that option A is incorrect? Tell me. Do you think option A is incorrect? Over to you quickly. Those who have answered D, they must have thought about it. Yes or no? Yeah? Nilesh, I'll come to your point. No worries. RH is saying no. Nilesh is saying A is incorrect. See, over here, what we are trying to evaluate is that, of course, D is the correct answer. Why? Because you have to choose one out of four. But if you read option A and D, there's not much difference between these two. There's not much difference. Correct? So when you are saying D is correct, what does it mean? That D is more appropriate as compared to A. To say that A is incorrect will be wrong. But because the option has to be only one, so therefore, what will be the right answer? D. So in this case, what some of the students may do is they can only read, or let's suppose what will happen is, say there is a student, that student reads A, he says, okay, this looks okay to me, this is perfect answer. So what answer he'll say? He'll say option A. But actually it should be D. So can you understand? See, these are the tactics of the examiner. Yes or no? Examiner is also trying to, you know, put in something so that you make mistakes. But you have to be very, very clever, not get into the tactics of the examiner. Yeah. So you need to think through appropriately. Correct? So in this case, what will be the right answer? Option D. Option D. Clear? Okay, now let's look at another question. I think somebody mentioned, I think there was this query from Nilesh. He said suggested answer of Jan 25. Uh, if we can do that for MCQ. Sure, we'll get on to that part also. Let's look at some questions around this. Then maybe if you have any specific MCQ, Nilesh, you can just specify that instead of getting on to all of that. See, all the questions will not be able to solve today. Yeah, that's why I'm just trying to, pick a few questions. Idea is to help you understand the approach you need to follow, help you understand the type of mistakes you may make, because you are all clear on the subject, you are all clear on the technical knowledge. Okay, idea is to get on to the approach. So if you have any particular question, you can always let me know and we'll just try to see if we can just also incorporate that. Fine. Okay, now A Limited has a balance of 17,15,000 in the loan account. Okay. In the loan account, which with State Finance Corporation, which is inclusive of 1,15,000 for interest accrued but not due. Okay. The loan is secured by hypothecation of plant and machinery. As per Schedule 3 to the Companies Act 2013. As per Schedule 3 to the Companies Act 2013, loan is to be disclosed in the balance sheet as follows. Okay. Option A. Disclose 16 lakh as a secured loan under long-term borrowing. Disclose 16 lakh as a secured loan under long-term borrowing and 1,15,000 under short-term borrowing. Disclose 16 lakh as a secured loan under long-term borrowing and 1,15,000 under current liabilities. Other one. Disclose 16 lakh as a secured loan under long-term borrowing and no disclosure for 1,15,000. Now, in this question, first of all, let's not discuss the final option, which is correct. Let's try to eliminate the wrong one. Quickly, over to you. So, which options you will first of all eliminate? Over to you. In this case, which option you will eliminate? Great. Nilesh says, I will eliminate A. Correct. And D should also be eliminated. A and D should be eliminated or not? Yeah. Because D says 1,15,000 should not be disclosed. Will that be correct? No. A is silent on 1,15,000. Will that be correct? No. So clearly A and D are not possible. Means the right option has to be one from B or C. Okay. Now, the only thing that we need to check here is what? How should 1,15,000 be presented? Should this be presented as short-term borrowing or other current liability? Yes or no? So if you are aware of that, you will be able to answer this correctly. Yes or no? So which one in this case will be the right option? Smriti has already answered this. It should be C. Swati is also saying C. Kushi is also saying C. What about others? Tell me. What about others? Nilesh is also saying C. Yeah. So C has to be the correct answer. Okay. Now, let's look at this question number 3. Most byproducts as well as scrap or waste materials by their nature are immaterial. Okay. Generally. Yeah. So if you look at byproducts, scrap, waste material, they are immaterial. Thus, these are measured at cost or NRV, whichever is lower, nil or NRV. So these are the 4 options. Now in this case, please remember, you need to pick the correct one. There's not anything which is called as most appropriate one. Yes or no? So this is all about having the knowledge. So either your answer will be correct or incorrect. Yeah. So if you'll know about this concept, okay. Samriddhi says it should be D. RH says it should be B. Kiran says it should be B. Swati says it should be C. So everyone is giving a different answer. Very good. Nilesh is saying it should be D. But if you look at the accounting standard, can you tell me which accounting standard will apply here? Over to you. Which accounting standard will apply here? RH says AS2. Means the accounting standard on inventory will apply. Yes or no? Yeah. So now, as per that standard, how do you measure byproduct or scrap or waste material? there's only one measurement criteria. What is that? NRV. Because for these items, how will you get to know about the cost? Will you be able to calculate the cost? Some of you who are thinking about A or B as an option, is that possible? No. And because these items are there, so can you just simply ignore them? Can you just record them at nil? Is that a possibility? Not at all. So C is completely gone. A and B are also not possible. So what is the option that is left and which is also the correct option? Option D. Option D. Okay. So it has to be option D, NRV. Right? It has to be option D, NRV. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now what we will do is we will also practice some more questions. And when I say we'll practice some more questions, we'll try to look at the approach. Okay. Means how do you need to present that? How do you need to attempt that question? Yeah. So that should be the thought process now. Okay. So now, question number 4. Now, these are descriptive questions. Descriptive means now you are not given 4 options and you to pick the select one. Yeah. Okay. Now, what do you mean by accrual in reference to AS1? Means there is a concept called as accrual defined under AS1. What do you mean by that? Also specify any 3 reasons for accrual basis of accounting. Yes, quickly. So can you now try to answer this? Quickly, over to you. If let's suppose you were to answer this, how would you approach this? Tell me quickly. Over to you. How would you answer this? Just think about it. Some of the pointers you will include. See, idea is not to get the complete solution from you. If you can just help me with the approach. RH says according to AS1, we will provide the explanation. So of course, you will give the reference of AS1. You will explain what is accrual. Yeah. But in terms of accrual, can you give me some of the pointers you will like to include here? Great. Kiran says income and expenditure are recognized as they occur. Swati says accrual refers to recording at paid or payable and received or receivable as per AS1. RH says on due basis. So some of the pointers that we need to consider. Let's try to look at those. Okay, so now on the screen, we have the solution for this question. First of all, what do you need to do? You need to give the reference of AS1 and with that reference, you need to explain accrual. Okay, so we'll say the term accrual as explained in AS1. And for AS1, it's always better to give the name of the accounting standard, but only if you remember that correctly. Don't give wrong name. Okay, if you don't remember the name, exclude that. If you think we shall remember, but we remember partly, that is wrong only. Okay? Yeah? Okay? So in such a case, what should you do? You should say term accrual as explained in AS1. Full stop. Means don't say the name. Okay? Then of course you will give the definition. Revenues and costs are accrued, that is, they are recognized as earned or incurred and recorded in the financial statements of the periods to which they relate. Now, here again, you may be thinking that, sir, this is a very technical language, or you can say, do we need to use the same language which is given in AS1? See, if you are able to do that, that is the most appropriate answer. But if you are not mugging up all of these things, if you would have understood these things, if you would have understood the concept, then your language may not match with the language which is given under AS1. But idea is to not match verbatim, word by word. That is not the idea, that is not the intent, that is not the requirement. Idea is to match on a conceptual basis. Means conceptually, whatever language you are presenting, whatever explanation you are presenting, whether that is matching with the definition which you are giving in the examination or not. Clear? Clear on this? Yeah? Now, moving further. Now, the three reasons for accrual that you need to provide. Now, in the solution, if you look at 5 pointers are given. So you may be thinking, but sir, should we also be doing the same thing? No, it's not necessary. See, if you are very precise, if you are very clear in terms of what should be the answer, okay, if you are very precise, very clear, then of course you can just give only those 4 points. That should be good enough. But if let's suppose there is some lack of clarity, you're not very sure about it, then you can always include one more point. But don't make it too bulky. Yeah. Please remember, you need to be very specific. You need to be very crispy and concise. Yeah. Be specific while answering the question. Okay. Yeah. Be very specific while answering the question. Okay. Now, in this case, we can read 1 or 2 points, and accordingly we'll just try to look at as to what should be the reasons. Accrual basis of accounting attempts to record the financial effects of transactions, events, and circumstances of an enterprise in the period in which they occur, rather than recording them in the periods in which cash is received or paid by the enterprise. Receipts and payments of the period will not coincide with the buying, producing, or selling events and other economic events that affect the entity's performance. Okay, third point. Goal of accrual basis of accounting is to follow matching concept of income and expenditure so that reported net income measures an enterprise performance during a period instead of merely listing its cash receipts and payments. Yeah. Another point, let's read that. Accrual basis of accounting recognizes assets, liabilities, or components of revenues and expenses for amounts received or paid in cash in past and amounts expected to be received or paid in cash in the future. Okay, clear? Yeah. All right. So now moving further. Then I think fifth question is more of practical solution. We'll just not get into that, this detailed calculation right now. Okay, so then let me just pick up another one. Okay, so let's look at this question number 8. Yeah, let's look at this question number 8. Now, in question number 8, some of the pointers that I can read, some of the questions that I can read. Okay, yeah, so these are very, very important, I would say. So let's read this part 1. Change in useful life of furniture from 5 years to 3 years is a change in estimate and is not a change in accounting policy. What do you think? Tell me, what do you think? Is this statement correct or incorrect? Over to you. So this is something which you will very commonly find. What do you think? It's correct or incorrect? Tell me quickly. See, this is very commonly observed mistake. So if you are changing the useful life, will you call this as a change in estimate or not? Tell me, over to you. Quickly, will you be calling that as a change in estimate or not? RH says yes. Yeah. So every time, whenever any such change is seen, please remember, even though it will be disclosed as an accounting policy, but this will not be considered to be a change in accounting policy. Why? Because change in accounting policy you do retrospectively. Change in accounting estimate you'll do prospectively. Okay. Now, another question. I'll just pick up from this. No. If you look at during the year, now I'm just reading this part 3. Just give me a minute. Now it says during the year 31st March 24, there was a change in cost formula in measuring the cost of inventory. So what does it mean? Earlier, say an item of inventory was measured at weighted average, now it's changed to FIFO. That is what you call as change in cost formula. Now in this case, how will you treat this? What should be the accounting treatment here? Quickly, over to you. What should be the accounting treatment in this case? Tell me, what should be the accounting treatment? How will you treat this? Over to you quickly. What should be the accounting treatment? How should you treat this? Nilesh says it will be a change in accounting policy. Yeah. So now, when you are changing the cost method, or you can say method of valuation of inventory, that is not change in estimate, because no estimate is involved. So what do you call it as? Change in accounting policy. You will call it as change in accounting policy. Correct. And again, depending on the weightage of the question that you will have, you will give your answer. So if it's a 1 mark question, you will say it's a change in cost formula. Yeah. Wherein you are changing the account. That's it. Clear? Clear on this? Yeah. Now, revenue. Revenue is a very important accounting standard. Please remember, if you want to make a note of this, you can make a note of this. Okay. Very important accounting standard. Okay. Yeah. So I think as around the revenue, you can always expect question in the examination. Yeah. So accordingly, you should approach revenue. So some of these things. So over here, the idea was to just get on to this point, just get on to this assessment. So I think with this, we have just tried to cover some of these aspects that we were trying to discuss. Okay. And hopefully you would have got some insights as to how this is really required to be captured, how the things are required to be looked at. Yeah. And once again, I would request you to please make sure some of the points which Priyamvada ma'am shared with you in the initial part of the discussion, and some of the points that we have discussed, while approaching your preparation for the examination, of course, while you are sitting in the examination. So I think with this, we can just conclude our discussion now. Yeah. All right. So with this, we can just conclude our discussion. RH is asking about important ASC. Some of the important AS, you can say consolidation. So when it comes to consolidation, all the one on consolidation, revenue, very important. AS5, again, impairment, again, is very important. Yeah, so I would say these are some of the important areas, but some of the standards which are very relevant, PPE is very relevant. So this you can also add to that. I would say these are few categories which I believe are more important as compared to the other one. But please remember, you can't be selective. Okay, you can't be selective, huh? Okay. Important doesn't mean you'll ignore others. You can always focus more on these, but please don't be selective. The moment you go selective, please remember you are, inviting some danger. Okay, that you should avoid. Fine. All right. So I think with this, we can just conclude our discussion. Okay. We can just conclude our discussion. All right. So Nisar, we can just conclude this now. So thanks everyone for your time and for this great participation you've shown today. Thanks so much.